Night's first whisper. In the still embrace of midnight, when the world seemed to pause in a hush that spoke of hidden secrets, Selena's heart stirred as if awakened by a long-forgotten memory. The darkness wrapped around her like a velvet shroud, a quiet sanctuary that both concealed and revealed the mysteries of her soul. In that profound silence, the rhythm of her heartbeat began to echo like the slow, resonant tap of distant drums, promising that something vast and transformative was about to unfurl. Under a sprawling canvas of starlight, she stood alone on a deserted street, the cool breath of the night caressing her skin. The air, thick with the promise of rain yet untouched by its drops, carried a gentle whisper, a message from the unknown. It was a sound that defied explanation, soft and insistent, luring her inward with its hypnotic cadence. Each whispered note of the wind seemed to murmur the secret of the universe, urging her to trust the stirring within and to embrace the unknown power burgeoning in her chest. Selena felt, deep inside, a spark, a fragile gleam of magic igniting quietly within her. It was as though a tiny star had been kindled in the vast darkness, its light both delicate and defiant against the oppressive night. Who am I really? She wondered, her thoughts a swirling mix of yearning and trepidation. The spark was not just a flicker of light, but a call, a summons to step beyond the confines of a life shadowed by neglect and solitude. It beckoned her to shatter the chains of her past, to rise above the quiet pain that had been her constant companion. Every detail of the night resonated with an ineffable beauty. The glint of distant constellations, the soft murmur of the breeze through ancient whispering trees, and the interplay of light and shadow cast by the gentle glow of the moon. The world, seemingly asleep, was alive with subtle symphonies, the rustle of leaves, the distant hum of nocturnal creatures, and the mysterious echo of footsteps far away. These soft sounds, each a brushstroke on an infinite canvas, painted a picture of isolation and hope, a testament to the quiet strength of those who feel unseen in a world too vast to notice their silent struggles. As she lifted her gaze to the heavens, a sense of destiny filled her. It was as if the universe itself had conspired to ignite this very moment. With eyes shimmering under the starlight, she realized that the night was not merely a backdrop for her solitude. It was a living, breathing oracle, imparting its enigmatic messages through the cool air and the caress of a gentle wind. The mystery of the night and the promise of change merged into a single haunting melody that resonated through her entire being. The flickering of a distant street lamp, the far-off echo of a melody only the night could sing, and the soft hum of cosmic winds all converged, leaving her both exhilarated and deeply contemplative. Her inner world roiled with a blend of fear and longing, of the desire to break free, and the inertia of a past that bound her in silence. In the tender, vulnerable space of her soul, she acknowledged the years of secret dreams and hidden sorrows. For too long, she had clung to the shadows, a delicate dance of survival that masked the radiant light of her true self. Yet now, stirred by that solitary spark, she could no longer deny that an uncharted journey awaited beyond the borders of her solitude. As if in answer to the silent plea of her heart, an almost imperceptible ripple crossed the night's veil. The whisper grew bolder, a soft murmur that teased the edges of her consciousness like a lullaby, woven from the threads of fate. It spoke of transformation, of a destiny written in the starlight and echoed in the heartbeat of the cosmos. In that mesmerizing moment, the very air seemed to shift, charged with an energy that promised both liberation and the collision of old, broken dreams with the fierce, unyielding will to change. With each trembling breath, Selena sensed that the night had bestowed upon her a choice, a chance to dare to be more than the timid soul, hidden in the recesses of a forgotten existence. The power that stirred within her was not just the promise of magic, but the echo of ancient legacies and a love that waited to be awakened. The spark was a quiet revolution, an invitation to step boldly into a future unburdened by regret and fear, and to transform every whispered secret into a radiant beacon of hope. In the thick, seductive darkness of that enchanted night, as the soft murmur of the wind cradled her in its gentle embrace, Selena's soul resonated with a newfound clarity. Here, in the heart of the night's first whisper, her destiny began to reveal itself, a luminous, mysterious path that beckoned her to rise. And as the stars held their silent vigil overhead, she stood on the precipice of an irrevocable change, her heart both fragile and fierce, ready to let the quiet promise of the night ignite the dawn of her extraordinary future. The mark of destiny, in the heart of a forgotten alley, where the city's pulse seemed to slow into a lingering breath of silence, Selena stepped into a realm that felt as if it were suspended between two worlds. The pavement before her was desolate and worn, its cracked surface lit sporadically by the meager glow of distant street lamps, casting an interplay of stark light and deep shadow that danced along the crumbling walls. Here, in this neglected space, the chaotic clamor of daily life faded into an eerie quiet, replaced by the persistent hum of something ancient and mysterious. As she moved further into the alley, the atmosphere grew thicker with an intangible energy, a soft thrumming under the soles of her shoes that whispered of secrets long buried. It was as if the very ground beneath her feet resonated with the heartbeat of a hidden realm, the sound blending into the low, almost imperceptible murmurs of the forgotten city. The interplay of dark recesses and fleeting light bestowed upon the space a spectral quality, making it feel otherworldly and timeless. There, etched into a wall of decaying brick, she noticed a symbol that glowed with an ethereal light, a luminous mark that pulsated faintly in the gloom. The symbol was unlike anything Selena had ever seen. It was as if it had been painted not with conventional pigment, but with the very essence of moonlight and stardust. Its luminescence was delicate yet insistent, a beacon amid the crumbling facades of the old building. In that instant, the mark seemed to ripple, as if it were alive, beckoning her to come closer. The sight of the symbol stirred something deep within her, a dormant whisper of destiny, echoing from a time when magic flowed freely, and every individual carried a spark of the extraordinary. As she approached, the subtle glow intensified, its light flickering gently against the weathered brick, like the soft flutter of a heart awakening from a long slumber. The silence around her grew profound, and every sense sharpened. She could almost taste the potential for transformation on her lips. A delicate metallic tang mingled with the sweetness of unspoken promises. At that moment, an almost palpable, electric charge filled the air, a humming vibration that seemed to emanate from the very core of the symbol. It was as though the mark communicated directly with her soul, inviting her to unlock a destiny that had been hidden away for years. The hum was not loud, yet it vibrated against her skin and seeped into her consciousness, stirring memories of whispered legends and forgotten family prophecies. Selena's hand trembled as she reached out toward the symbol, her fingertips grazing the cold, smooth surface of the aged brick. In that silent contact, the mark pulsed once more, as if resonating with an energy that had waited patiently for her arrival. The experience was deeply sensory. Each minute vibration of the symbol synced with the pounding of her heart, like a secret drumbeat urging her to heed its call. The moment was charged with an anticipation that left her breathless, caught between the thrill of discovery and the weight of destiny. Her mind raced with fragmented thoughts of ancient tales, legends of those who were chosen by fate, and a long-hidden secret power passed down through generations. For a fleeting instant, the symbol seemed to blur the boundaries of time, merging the past with the present in a silent dialogue. The desolate alley, with its interplay of shadow and light, transformed into a sacred space where every crumbling brick and every echo of distant memory held a promise of profound change. In the midst of this intoxicating revelation, Selena's phone vibrated unexpectedly. a sudden, jarring reminder of the tangible world. With trembling fingers, she lifted the device, its screen lighting up to reveal a message that sent a chill of both excitement and trepidation down her spine. The text was brief, almost cryptic in its brevity, yet its content was loaded with meaning. Changes here. Those two simple words reverberated in her mind like a haunting incantation, fanning the flames of the secret power that had stirred within her for so long. The message was a call to action, a symbolic key urging her to unlock the deeper layers of her destiny. It spoke of a transformative moment that was now upon her, a decisive juncture where the comfort of her former life would be irrevocably shattered to reveal a landscape of raw potential and perilous possibility. The digital buzz against the ancient backdrop of the alley created a paradox, a collision of modern urgency and timeless mystery, deepening the allure of the symbol's luminous glow. As the eerie silence of the alley enveloped her once more, Selena stood transfixed by the spectral mark. The humming energy, the taste of imminent change on her lips, and the weight of the message compelled her to believe that her long-neglected destiny was now calling. In that suspended moment, the cryptic echo of "change is here" resounded in her ears, its mysterious promise igniting a flicker of resolve that began to dispel the shadows of isolation. With a determined glimmer in her eyes, Selena took a hesitant step closer to the mark, a gesture that, though fraught with uncertainty, signified a profound willingness to embrace the unknown. The supernatural pulse under her fingertips was a silent vow that her fate was no longer to be confined within the boundaries of neglect. It was a call to rise, to transform, and to reclaim the power that had been hidden within her all along. The night of shattered labels. In the aftermath of that enchanted spark, the weight of Selena's long-neglected identity as an Omega pressed heavily upon her weary soul. For years, she had drifted unnoticed through the clamor of a world ruled by formidable alphas and fierce betas, her existence a silent echo amid the thunderous declarations of power. The nights had been her only solace, a retreat where she could hide behind the fragile shroud of insignificance, her hopes buried under the weight of countless dismissals and unspoken judgments. Now, however, as the darkness deepened, every step she took in that forsaken part of the city reminded her of the labels that had chained her to a life of quiet obscurity. The abandoned street outside her modest home was a stage of muted colors and cold reflections. Cracked sidewalks, worn smooth by the passage of countless indifferent footsteps, told the story of neglect. The distant hum of neon lights and the soft whisper of the urban wind carried with them memories of an existence that had always been, overshadowed by those who roared with confidence. Selena's heart tightened with an ache that was both familiar and foreign, a longing for recognition, a desire to be seen in a world that had always cast her aside. A solitary gust of wind burst through the deserted lane, and with it came a murmur of voices, as if the past itself had found a way to speak. That chill wind carried remnants of forgotten secrets, stirring in her a blend of anxiety and forbidden hope. It whispered to her of long-lost legends and the timeless power that slumbered in the veins of the forsaken. In that gust, she could almost discern echoes of her ancestors, a chorus of voices urging her to awaken the hidden greatness that lay dormant within. The wind's caress was both tender and insistent, a fleeting reminder that every life, no matter how inconspicuous, held a spark waiting to be fanned into a blazing force. With each soft murmur, Selena's perception of herself began to shift. The familiar label of Omega, once a chain of shame and insignificance, now trembled in the face of the wind's poignant revelations. The cool breeze seemed to slice through the oppressive weight of neglect, shattering the brittle facade of self-doubt that had clung to her for so many silent years. In that moment, the memory of every dismissive glance and each cold dismissal blended with the sound of the wind, forging a new resolve. The label that had once confined her was cracking, splintering like glass under the pressure of newfound possibility. As the wind whispered its ancient secrets, her eyes were drawn to a series of fleeting images. silhouettes dissolving into the darkness, a scatter of luminescent traces that hinted at worlds beyond this tangible realm. The quiet murmur of the night, punctuated by these mysterious flashes of light, began to unravel the rigid boundaries of her predetermined fate. Each whispered secret, each subtle trace of light was a promise of untamed possibilities, a challenge to the weary confines of her past self. The more the night spoke, the more the oppressive weight of her Omega identity seemed to fade, replaced by the burning promise of transformation. In the stillness of that solitary moment, Selena's inner landscape burst with conflicting emotions. A sharp sting of sorrow for all the years spent unnoticed, intermingled with a fierce, throbbing hope that this was the beginning of something radically new. The crisp night air, laced with the damp scent of rain and the earthy aroma of time-worn concrete, became the canvas upon which her destiny was poised to be rewritten. She felt as if the very fabric of fate had begun to fray at the edges, inviting her to step beyond the confines of all that had been, and embrace the wild unknown. Then, as if summoned by the crescendo of her heart's silent call, a sudden flash of motion emerged from the darkness, a brief and brilliant shimmer that cut through the pervasive gloom. It was the pulsing glow of that same mystical symbol she had witnessed earlier, its light now more insistent and more alive than ever before. The symbol's radiant energy seemed to stretch out like a hand, beckoning her to leave behind the shadows that had defined her existence for so long. In that instant, every suppressed yearning, every echo of past neglect, converged into a single, undeniable impulse. The flash of light was like a verdict, a clarion call that shattered her old, confining labels and announced the arrival of a new dawn. As the symbol pulsed with an almost hypnotic rhythm, its glow illuminated the forgotten alley, revealing the true depth of the mysteries that clung to the night. The interplay of shadows and light transformed the space into a portal of possibility, a liminal zone where the old self could be left behind, and a new, fierce, untamed identity could emerge. With a trembling hand resting against the cool surface of the weathered brick, Selena felt the stirring within her crescendo into a defiant call to arms. It was a call that resonated with every heartbeat, a promise that the time for hiding was over. The haunting echo of "changes here" reverberated through the silence, fanning the internal fire of secrets long kept and heralding the moment when her destiny would finally break free of its tethers. In that luminous instant, as the glowing symbol beckoned her to step away from the safe, confining shadows of her past, a powerful realization took hold. The labels that had once defined her, those harsh, stinging words that had relegated her to the margins, were now breaking apart, splintering under the force of destiny's unyielding call. And in that ephemeral flash of mystical light, Selena found herself at the precipice of an extraordinary transformation, ready to rewrite her story with all the fire and passion that had long been buried within her soul. A call to transformation. In the dead of night, when the world around Selena lay in quiet slumber, an abrupt, shrill beep shattered the silence, like a sudden burst of lightning in an otherwise calm sky. The sound sliced through the darkness, a piercing alert that jolted her from her reverie. In that instant, time seemed to slow as if the universe itself had paused to listen. The sudden ring of her phone, an unexpected intrusion on the tender peace of the night, was both a signal and a summons, a message carrying the weight of fate. Selena's hand, still trembling from the previous surge of supernatural energy, instinctively reached for the phone as its screen burst to life. The glow of the device cut a luminous path through the darkness, revealing a mysterious number that blinked alongside the same ethereal symbol that had haunted her every step moments before. Her fingers, slick with a mixture of sweat and anticipation, hovered over the screen. Each trembling pulse felt synchronous with the beat of her heart, a heartbeat that now throbbed with the raw promise of transformation. It was as if the phone had become a conduit through which destiny was speaking directly to her, a call to arms in the digital age. The glowing symbol, etched against the cold backdrop of the screen, radiated an otherworldly light. its brilliance, was a stark reminder of the secret power that had long lain dormant within her, waiting to be awakened. As she stared at this convergence of modern technology and ancient symbolism, a surge of emotions overwhelmed her. In that electric moment, she realized that fate was no longer an abstract concept. It had taken tangible form, merging the past with her present in a single, electrifying instant. Inside her, a maelstrom of unspoken thoughts churned fiercely. Her mind, once clouded by years of neglect, now echoed with a challenge, a call to embrace the wild transformation that beckoned from the depths of her being. The message on her screen, so simple yet potent, resonated like a mystical incantation. Changes here. It was a directive that demanded attention, urging her to shatter the confines of her former self and step boldly into the realm of possibility. That single command reverberated through her, intertwining with her deepest fears and wildest hopes. Outside, the world mirrored the inner tumult that roiled within her. The streetlights above flickered erratically, their harsh, stuttering glow, casting shifting shadows on the cracked pavement. Leaves, whipped into frenetic motion by a capricious wind, scattered around her like fleeting echoes of a past life. The chaotic dance of light, shadow, and motion was a vivid, physical manifestation of her internal struggle, a landscape in turmoil that seemed to herald the imminent rebirth of her soul. Each flicker of the streetlights, each errant gust of wind that disturbed the silence, fueled the urgency in her heart. The disjointed cadence of the external world became a symphony of transformation, an orchestration of chaos that resonated with her inner call. In that moment, the boundary between technology and destiny blurred. Her phone, glowing with the cryptic message, became a beacon of radical change, the digital herald of a metamorphosis that was as inevitable as it was overwhelming. Selena's breath came in quick, ragged gasps as the reality of the call sunk in. The juxtaposition of modern urgency and timeless magic filled her with a blend of apprehension and fierce determination. Every nerve in her body vibrated with an electric charge as she considered the magnitude of what was about to transpire. The message was not merely a notification. It was a battle cry from the very fabric of the universe, inviting her to cast aside the shroud of her past and step into the raw, uncharted power that now hummed through her veins. In that profound moment, the chaotic symphony outside, marked by the erratic flicker of streetlights and the restless murmur of leaves, mirrored the tumult inside her. The union of fear and hope, of trepidation and courage, wove itself into the fabric of her being. It was as if every element of the night conspired to push her beyond the threshold of her old identity. The luminous glow on her phone, the cryptic message, and the wild, unpredictable energy of the surroundings combined to form a clarion call that echoed in every fiber of her existence. As the chaotic visual and auditory cues intertwined with her racing thoughts, Selena felt an irreversible shift stirring within. With a deep, shuddering breath that seemed to draw in the very essence of the night, she resolved to answer the call. In that breath lay the promise of transformation, a promise to forsake the shadows of a neglected past for the vibrant, untamed future that awaited. Every pulse of her heart, every flicker of the erratic streetlights, and every whisper of the wind urged her to accept that destiny was calling out, loud and clear. And so, with her heart pounding in fierce defiance against the weight of old fears, Selena nodded silently to the universe. She closed her eyes for a moment, savoring the electric charge of this decisive instant, and then, with renewed resolve, stepped forward. In the interplay of technology and magic, hope merged with fear, and the ancient call of destiny beckoned, her to rise above her former self. The night had spoken, and her journey toward an extraordinary transformation was finally set in motion. Echoes of a forgotten past, Selena's weary steps carried her down a dimly lit street, where the glow of distant neon barely pierced the veil of night. As she moved toward the shelter of a small, quiet park, her mind began to drift into introspection, a silent journey into the depths of memories and unspoken lore. The dark pavement underfoot bore the scars of countless lonely nights, each crack and fissure whispering the untold stories of a forgotten past, resonating with a melancholic promise of what once was. Nature itself seemed to join in this quiet reverie. The rustling of leaves overhead provided a soft, natural cadence, as if the trees were murmuring ancient secrets lost to time. A cold breeze carried with it the faint scent of damp earth and moss, a reminder of rain-soaked days and long-hidden legends. In the distance, the muted call of an owl broke the stillness, its cry echoing through the darkness like a lone voice from an era long past. Every sound, every movement in this nocturnal symphony felt significant, as if the world were trying to tell her a story that lay hidden beneath its surface. As she entered the park, the gentle sounds of nature seemed to amplify the memories stirring within her heart. The winding paths, lined with overgrown ferns and gnarled trees, invited her to wander further into a realm where past and present converged. It was here, amidst the whispering winds and shifting shadows, that a flash of something extraordinary caught her eye, an ancient symbol etched onto a weathered wall. The symbol glimmered faintly against the crumbling brick, as though illuminated by the soft kiss of moonlight. In that fleeting moment, a cascade of memories surged through Selena's mind. She recalled the hushed stories whispered by her elders, tales of a hidden power woven into the very fabric of her blood, of a legacy that had long been shrouded in mystery. The symbol, though simple in design, seemed to pulse with the energy of generations past, its lines and curves echoing the promise of an ancestral strength that had been suppressed and hidden away. It was as if that ancient mark was a beacon, calling out to her from a forgotten time, urging her to reclaim the legacy that had been left behind like a treasure locked away in a forgotten chest. The sight of the symbol stirred a tumult of emotions within her, a blend of intense fear and the stirring promise of a heroic destiny. There was a momentary shiver that ran down her spine as the weight of the past pressed against the present, demanding acknowledgement. The symbol's glow was a stark contrast to the cold, unforgiving reality that had for so long dismissed her worth. In the interplay of light and darkness, a realization began to dawn on her. The tales of her family's hidden power were not merely legends spun to comfort a lost soul, but were the very threads of her identity, woven into the tapestry of a destiny that awaited her embrace. Every detail of that marked wall, the smooth curvature of its design, the soft luminescence that highlighted its contours, resonated deeply with the echoes of old family stories. It was as if the ancient symbol was a mirror, reflecting back to her the untapped potential that had always been a part of who she was. In that reflective moment, the past and present collided. The old narratives of a once proud lineage merged with the raw, pulsating energy of her current self. The very air around her seemed to vibrate with the power of forgotten legends, beckoning her to step beyond the confines of her previous life. In that luminous convergence, Selena's heart began to stir with a fierce longing, a yearning to break, free from the chains of neglect and insignificance. The ancient symbol was not just a relic of the past. It was a call to arms, a quiet manifesto urging her to rise and reclaim the power that had been denied her for so long. The cold pavement beneath her feet, the whisper of the leaves, and the spectral glow of the mark each played their part in a symphony of destiny. A delicate yet insistent reminder that she was meant for something far greater than a life lived in the shadows. With every breath, the energy of that long-forgotten past filled her with both trepidation and hope. It was a powerful, almost overwhelming feeling, an internal revolution that began to dismantle the old labels that had plagued her existence. The voices of her ancestors seemed to whisper through the rustling leaves, urging her to remember that her lineage was marked by strength and resilience, a heritage of warriors whose legacy was etched in every subtle symbol of power. In that charged silence, amidst the murmur of nature and the spectral glow of an ancient emblem, Selena made an unspoken vow. Her gaze, fixed upon the glowing mark, held a determined spark. She would no longer allow the shadows of her past to dictate the course of her future. With a resolute inward whisper, she promised herself to reclaim the power that had been kept hidden for far too long. The promise of that very mark, pulsing with the life of forgotten legends, ignited within her a newfound courage, a quiet determination to rise from the ashes of neglect and embrace the extraordinary destiny that lay waiting in the wings. And so, as the night deepened around her and the quiet murmur of the park offered its ancient lullaby, Selena stepped away from the familiarity of isolation. She carried with her the echoes of a once-forgotten past, a tapestry of hidden strength and unspoken legacies, and with each step, she moved closer to rediscovering the true, heroic essence that had always resided within her. A mysterious guide and the first encounter. After leaving the cryptic whispers of the forgotten alley, Selena found herself drawn toward a secluded park shrouded in shadows. The park's winding pathways were barely lit by the soft, intermittent glow of old lanterns that stood like silent sentinels among ancient trees. Every sound seemed heightened here. The gentle rustle of leaves stirred by a cool breeze, the distant call of night birds echoing amid the darkness, and the soft padding of her own footsteps on the dew-laden ground. The atmosphere was charged with mystery, as though every element of nature was conspiring to reveal something long hidden. As she ventured further along the narrow cobblestone path, a subtle shift in the air caught her attention, a delicate, almost imperceptible movement that made her heart skip a beat. In the periphery of the park's dim light, a young man appeared. His silhouette was framed by the gentle luminescence of a flickering street lamp, and his eyes, kind, searching, and achingly soulful, seemed to pierce the gloom with a quiet intensity. In that fleeting, cinematic moment, time appeared to hold its breath, as if the universe were aligning to mark the convergence of two fates. The young man's presence felt at once enigmatic and reassuring. His gaze, soft yet resolute, communicated a promise of shared destiny, hinting at a connection far beyond the randomness of chance. His eyes conveyed the unspoken understanding of the loneliness that had shadowed both their lives. And in that silent exchange, a wave of hope and curiosity washed over Selena. It was as though he carried within him echoes of a legacy that called to her, a whispered reminder of destiny interwoven with forbidden, tender love. For a few heartbeats, they stood facing each other in the delicate glow of the park. The cadence of the night, each rustle, each fading note of distant sound, created a profound backdrop for this moment, as if nature itself were offering its applause for this serendipitous meeting. In the hush that enveloped them, he spoke in a voice that was barely more than a murmur, yet it carried the weight of unspoken promises. "I believe our paths were meant to cross," he said softly, almost as if the words were shared between kindred souls. Each syllable was imbued with a gentle sincerity that resonated deeply within her, stirring emotions that had lain dormant in the secret chambers of her heart. For Selena, every detail was etched in vivid clarity. She noted the gentle rise and fall of his chest as he spoke, the tender curve of his smile that momentarily lit up his face, and the wistful glimmer in his eyes that hinted at dreams of a future filled with possibilities. His presence seemed to momentarily ease the weight of the years spent in solitude, and his quiet words invited her to envision a life where destiny was not defined by neglect, but by the brilliance of shared purpose. Yet, in the midst of that fragile, heartwarming connection, the spell of the moment was abruptly broken. As quickly as he had appeared, the young man slipped away into the maze of twisting shadows and winding paths. One moment he was there, a beacon of hope and possibility, and in the next, he was swallowed by the encroaching darkness, leaving behind only a lingering trace of his presence and the soft echo of his parting words. Selena stood motionless, her mind awash with conflicting emotions. The sudden disappearance of the enigmatic stranger left a poignant silence. filling the space with a sense of loss that was almost tangible. His vanishing act deepened the mystery. Was he a mere passerby, or a harbinger of a long-forgotten destiny? The encounter had illuminated a part of her soul that had remained in darkness for too long, yet it also shrouded her future in even greater enigma. As she resumed her slow walk through the quiet park, the flutter of her heart and the ghostly echo of his voice intertwined, creating a stirring inner dialogue. Questions began to echo in the hollows of her mind. Who was he? Why did his eyes hold such deep, unspoken stories? Could it be that their encounter was the first spark of a transformative, forbidden love? And most haunting of all, did he hold the key to unlocking the true power that had lain dormant within her all these years? Every step Selena took was imbued with a newfound determination, a silent vow that she would seek the answers to these questions, no matter the cost. His brief, yet profound presence had not only offered a glimpse into a potential destiny, but had also ignited within her a fervent desire to reclaim the legacy that whispered through the corridors of her past. In that moment, amidst the soft symphony of night and the fading traces of his smile, she resolved to embrace the mysteries of her lineage and pursue the elusive promise of a destiny that had long been denied. As the shadows deepened and the gentle murmur of the park grew into a serene lull, Selena's mind was alive with possibilities. The stranger's departure had left an indelible mark on her spirit, a subtle nudge to follow the winding path of fate, regardless of the uncertainties that lay ahead. And in the quiet aftermath of their encounter, the seed of hope he had planted began to take root, promising that even in the solitude of the night, the light of destiny could guide her toward the truth of who she was always meant to be. Destiny's tangled clues. The night pressed on, its shadows dancing in concert with the secrets of the past, as Selena continued her solitary journey along rain-slicked streets. Every step resonated with a quiet urgency, the wet pavement echoing the rhythm of an uncertain heartbeat. In the layers of darkness, subtle hints of her forgotten legacy emerged. A glowing mark here, a hushed whisper there, each a delicate thread woven into the tapestry of fate. As she moved forward, the cool mist of the night wrapped around her, carrying with it a chorus of voices that seemed neither wholly of this world nor entirely of memory. They were soft and elusive murmurs, fleeting echoes that spoke of ancient truths and the hidden power long dormant in her blood. The voices, though indistinct, were clear in their intent, each one a spectral reminder that destiny had entwined itself with her very being. In that mysterious chorus, every note vibrated with both the promise of danger and the tantalizing allure of what could be. Her eyes caught a sudden flash, a radiant glow on a crumbling wall that pulsed with an enigmatic brilliance. It was an ancient inscription carved deep into the brickwork, its faded symbols illuminated for a brief moment before succumbing again to the darkness. The sight sent a shiver down her spine and stirred long-forgotten memories of family legends she had once dismissed as mere fables. Each curve and line of the inscription whispered secrets of hidden power and noble bloodlines, and for a moment, time seemed to tremble around her. In the midst of her inner tumult, Selena's gaze fell upon a small token lying abandoned near the edge of the alley. Half buried in damp leaves and debris, the token gleamed softly, as if imbued with a life force of its own. Its surface was worn, etched with intricate markings that mirrored the mysterious symbols from those family stories. As she picked it up, a surge of inexplicable energy pulsed through her fingers, and she felt, for the first time in years, the stirring of hope, a defiant, tender spark amid the long-standing darkness of neglect. Not far from where the token had been discovered, an old ornate amulet caught her eye. Suspended from the rusted branch of a gnarled tree, the amulet swayed gently in the night breeze. Its delicate chain, tarnished by time, held an object of uncanny beauty, a small relic radiating a subdued yet insistent light. The glow of the amulet was reminiscent of the mark she'd seen moments before, the the twin images of destiny inviting her to rise, to reclaim a power thought lost forever. In that silent, eerie hour, the relic became a symbol, a call to embrace not only her past, but the wild promise of transformation that lay ahead. Selena's mind raced as she began piecing together these tangible signs with the whispered legends of her family. Each object, the glowing inscription, the time-worn token, the luminous amulet, seemed to carry its own story, its own fragment of a larger puzzle that spanned generations. With every subtle clue, she sensed an invisible hand stitching together the disparate threads of her life into a coherent, yet complex, design. The past was not something to be left behind. It was an ever-present force guiding her toward a destiny she had scarcely dared to imagine. As she walked, the soft rustle of leaves beneath her feet mingled with the low hum of the city settling in the wake of the storm. The interplay of light and shadow on the pavement mirrored her internal landscape, a fragile balance of fear and hope, of ancient sorrow and the new, budding promise of redemption. With every measured step, the tangible weight of her history pressed against her, urging her forward into the embrace of the unknown. Yet amid the rising tide of anticipation, there was also an undercurrent of profound conflict. The very objects that beckoned her to claim her hidden power also stirred echoes of the pain and isolation that had long defined her days. In the soft glow of the amulet and the faded inscriptions that time had nearly erased, Selena felt the duality of her soul, a heart torn between the longing to remain safe in the shadows and the fierce, inexplicable urge to step into the full blaze of her potential. For a long, lingering moment, she paused at the intersection of past and future. The night air, heavy with the scent of rain and earth, seemed to hold its breath along with her. Inaundi, that dramatic pause, every footfall on the wet pavement was a resonant beat echoing her uncertain yet determined cadence, a whisper from destiny demanding attention. The physical world around her, with its fractured reflections of light and dark, became the perfect stage for the silent drama playing out within. As she resumed her cautious trek along the dimly lit street, the myriad clues continued to weave their cryptic narrative. Each fragmented symbol, each whispered hint, deepened the enigma of her identity. Every surge of hope intertwined with mounting anxiety, every flicker of the past merging with the promise of a future still to be written. And in that charged silence, as the echoes of forgotten legends and the call of supernatural power danced together in a delicate balance, Selena felt something stirring within her, a slow, burgeoning resolve that grew stronger with each step. The end, standing amid the glistening remnants of the night's revelations, she vowed silently to herself. Every small clue was a stepping stone toward reclaiming the power that had always been hers to command. The journey was just beginning, and though the path was shrouded in mystery, with each echo of her heartbeat on the wet pavement, the tangled clues of destiny beckoned her deeper into a future where her true self would finally emerge from the shadows. The crucible of change, a sudden violent shift tore through the still night as Selena was thrust into the chaos of rain-slicked streets. The quiet mystery of moments before shattered with the abrupt roar of thunder that splintered the sky. Lightning arced across the heavens in jagged splendor, illuminating the dark cityscape with fierce white brilliance. In that blinding flash, every shadow and every droplet of rain seemed to tremble with raw energy. The collision of nature's fury and the pulse of emerging magic ignited a crucible where inner strength clashed with external conflict. As the storm raged, Selena found herself at the epicenter of a maelstrom of violence and wonder. The relentless downpour transformed the streets into slick, mirror-like surfaces, reflecting an unruly ballet of lights and movements that danced upon the pavement. Her every step splashed against the concrete in a staccato rhythm that mimicked her accelerating heartbeat. In the charged air, the taste of rain mingled with the metallic tang of adrenaline as she braced herself for what was to come. In the midst of the tumult, a group of shadowy figures emerged from the obscurity, a menacing assembly whose silhouettes sliced through the storm. They advanced with deliberate ferocity, their voices swallowed by the roar of the thunder. The air thickened with tension and impending strife, every gust of wind charged with the force of destiny. As the figures closed in, Selena's body tensed, every muscle coiled like a spring waiting to release its hidden power. It was then that her evolving destiny made itself undeniable. Out of nowhere, a surge of electricity seemed to course through her veins, as if the storm itself were merging with the ancient magic that had long simmered within her. In a moment that defied the ordinary, flashes of raw, unfiltered magic began to flicker along her fingertips. Each spark that danced between her grasp was an echo of power, a piece of a promise that her life was no longer confined to the shadows of insignificance. The physical confrontation burst forth as a relentless torrent of kinetic force. Fists flew and bodies collided, each impact resonating with the crash of thunder overhead. Amidst the chaotic melee, Selena's internal storm echoed in the physical realm. Her emotions, once gentle and introspective, now surged with urgency, morphing into a potent mix of fear, hope, and defiant determination. Every hit she deflected and every counter-strike she launched was imbued with not only the will to survive, but the burning desire to embrace the supernatural strength awakening within her. In one sudden, explosive moment, a barrage of energy erupted from Selena. The burst was magnificent in its intensity, a dazzling display where physical force converged with raw magical power. Waves of incandescent light tore through the darkness, and in that split second, her body became the vessel of transformation. The surrounding chaos faded into a stark focus on her emerging power, where pain and ecstasy intertwined, leaving her limbs trembling with both exertion and wonder. The air around her seemed to vibrate in tandem with the rhythm of her metamorphosis, carrying the unmistakable scent of ozone and the sharp tang of change. Each flash of lightning and every resounding crack of thunder seemed to accentuate her internal shift. The storm's chaotic symphony mirrored the surge of power that now consumed her. The boundary between her human frailty and her newfound supernatural might blurred into insignificance. For the first time, she felt the tangible physical manifestation of the destiny that had been whispered in her blood for so long. Her entire being pulsed with an unyielding force, a vibrant, dangerous energy that could either forge her into a formidable guardian of her own destiny or, if untamed, consume her entirely. As the clash with her adversaries escalated, rapid scene, changes unfolded like the pages of an epic tale. The dissonant sounds of the struggle, the harsh scrape of concrete, the relentless patter of rain, and the guttural shouts of her attackers merged seamlessly with the internal surge of her power. In that crucible, every heartbeat became both a drum of defiance and a reminder of the potential cost. The raw intensity of the confrontation pushed her to the brink, demanding that she confront the very limits of her strength. Within that maelstrom of light, sound, and supernatural fury, Selena reached a pivotal moment of reckoning. Amidst the swirling chaos and the tempest's unforgiving clamor, a profound choice loomed before her: to harness this raw, unfettered power and shape it into the force that would define her destiny, or to allow it to spiral out of control, consuming all that she held dear. The ground beneath her, slick with rain and illuminated by intermittent flashes of lightning, bore witness to her internal battle, a struggle that was as much about reclaiming her true self as it was about surviving the physical onslaught. For one breathless second, as the storm's fury paused in a transient stillness, Selena felt the weight of possibility. Every fleeting spark of magic and every surge of violent energy converged into a singular choice that resonated deep within her soul. It was a choice that would either herald the dawn of her becoming, a guardian forged by pain, passion, and purpose, or condemn her to be forever lost in the tumult of an uncontrollable force. In that charged instant, with the storm's echoes still reverberating in the distance, and the conflict casting long shadows on her uncertain future, she closed her eyes and steadied her breath. The decisive moment was now, a moment where the boundaries between fear and hope, destruction and creation blurred into one shimmering line of destiny. and as her heartbeat finally gathered into a resolute cadence, Selena opened her eyes, ready to choose the path that would define not just her fate, but the very future of her once hidden power. Betrayal and the cost of power. In the heart of the relentless storm, as the clash of supernatural forces roared around her, Selena found a moment of false respite. The rain lashed down in torrential sheets on the slick streets, the cold droplets, mingling with the heat of the battle and the raw, emerging energy pulsing through her veins. Amid the chaos, a familiar face emerged from the throng of attackers, a trusted ally, someone who had fought by her side through the first brutal surge of transformation. For a brief, heart-stopping moment, she allowed herself to believe that she was not alone in this violent awakening. But then, in a twist that cut through the tumult like a shard of ice, that very ally revealed a betrayal so sharp that it rent her spirit asunder. In the fevered blur of clashing bodies and raging energy, his eyes, once warm with steadfast loyalty, now burned with a cold, calculating malice. His words, uttered in a low, venomous hiss, shattered the fragile bond they had forged. In that instant, the conviction that she had clung to, the belief that love might be a sanctuary, crumbled into bitter fragments. The explosive confrontation escalated around her as if orchestrated by fate itself to mark the turning point of her destiny. Shock and sorrow collided within Selena, the betrayal igniting a searing pain that was as physical as it was emotional. It was a dichotomy of love and agony, a bitter reminder that the cost of power could be as heavy as the loneliness that had haunted her for so long. Each punch that landed and every burst of magical energy that erupted from her fingertips felt now laced with a tremor of despair, a question of whether the gifts she was beginning to wield were blessings or curses. The world around her blurred in a symphony of rain, thunder, and shattered trust, as if nature itself mourned the loss of what might have been. In that tumultuous moment, every flash of lightning served as both a beacon of hope and a harbinger of relentless torment. The cold shards of betrayal sliced through her like the lightning's sting, leaving her gasping, both in shock and in an awakening of something fierce within her. Her heart pounded in rapid, uncertain beats, echoing the clash between her tender capacity for love and the merciless brutality of the present conflict. Desperation clawed at her, and amidst the chaos of the battlefield, a swirling vortex of furious energy and acrid bitterness, Selena made a fateful decision. With trust shattered and the weight of the betrayal bearing down on her, the tumultuous surge of her newfound power beckoned like a last, defiant stand. In a burst of raw, unbridled magic, she channeled every ounce of her pain and heartbreak, unleashing an irreversible explosion of energy. The force of the transformation was both terrifying and magnificent, engulfing her foes in a brilliant display of incandescent light, while carving a permanent scar into the fabric of her being. For those frantic, excruciating seconds, the world contracted to nothing but the jagged landscape of her raw emotions. The relentless roar of the storm and the echo of her ally's betrayal intertwined with the profound agony of her transformation, forging an intense crucible where fear and hope intermingled. Each pulse of energy that surged through her became a defiant declaration, a silent vow that she would never again be defined by the treachery of others. Yet, even as her power swelled and her form began to shift in real time, a lingering, haunting uncertainty pervaded her every thought. When the cacophony of battle finally subsided, the rain washed away the blood and debris, and an eerie stillness fell over the rain-soaked streets. Selena stood alone. Her body, bruised and trembling, bore the undeniable marks of her transformation, the scars that told tales of both pain and a desperate, fierce determination to rise above the betrayal. In that lonely aftermath, with the storm's fury finally spent, she found herself isolated in a narrow, rain-drenched alleyway. The echoes of betrayal and the bitter taste of a broken trust clung to her like a shroud, and the future of her emerging identity, and the fragile hope of a forbidden love, hung by a precarious thread. As she gazed into the reflective puddles, at her feet, each drop shivering with the memory of the night's violence. Selena's thoughts churned in a storm of their own. The cost of the power now surging in her veins was steep, and the painful reality of betrayal weighed on her soul. In that frozen moment of solitude, standing amid shattered dreams and glistening raindrops, she was forced to confront a somber truth. To forge a new destiny, she might have to sacrifice not only the remnants of a trusting past, but also the possibility of delicate, cherished connections. And so, with the relentless patter of rain as her only witness, Selena drew a final, shuddering breath, her eyes narrowing with a resolve born of both despair and defiant hope. Amid the isolation and the aftermath of the storm, every heartbeat echoed like a solemn drum, a reminder that the future was uncertain. Yet within it lay the promise of a power that could either save her or consume her entirely. The night ended, with Selena standing on that rain-soaked threshold, her path forward obscured, yet charged with a dangerous, compelling promise. A promise that would determine whether she embraced her newfound might or was tragically overcome by it.